Imagine spending thousands of dollars drilling a borehole. The machine has been drilling for almost 6 hours. We are now at 100 meters. Still, there is no water. The sun is beginning to set. Everyone on site, they've gone quiet. You have already spent far more than you planned because every extra meter costs more money. Do you stop or you keep drilling and risk losing more money? This is the reality of building in Zimbabwe. Many of the stories, obviously, they are the successful ones. The bad side, much of it is not really showed to the people. The fear, the waiting, this is what people really show and talk about. So in today's video, I'm taking you through one of the most stressful days that we had on site. So we started drilling at exactly 10:45 a.m. and then by 1600 hours, we had already reached 100 meters and still we hadn't found water. But what happened next is what changed this project. So if you're building a home in Zimbabwe, planning to drill a borehole or buying land, watch this video until it ends because this experience could save you thousands of dollars. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Elaine. I'm an engineer as well as a project manager. So why does this video matter? I've met people who drilled 40 meters and found excellent water. I've also met people who drilled beyond 120 meters and still they ended up with a dry hole. And unfortunately, I've met homeowners who paid thousands of dollars for a borehole that never produced enough water to supply their home. That's the risk. Unlike buying bricks or roofing sheets, water is hidden underground. You cannot see it and you cannot measure it with your eyes. So you're making one of the biggest investments on your property based on geological science and experience. That's why today's video is very important. I'm going to show you exactly what happened on our side and explain why we nearly stopped drilling and share the lessons that could save you money when it's your turn. Okay, so the machine arrived at 10:15. That's when it got on the site, and then they started doing setting up and everything. So watching these machines, obviously it's just impressive. It's loud, powerful, and incredibly precise. So once everything was set up, the drilling, it officially started at 10:45. You know, when it starts, you're all excited. The first few meters, they went quickly. As the borehole drilling continued, different layers of soil and rock came out of the ground. And each layer, it tells the drilling team what's happening beneath the surface. So the deeper you go, the slower the process becomes. So 1 hour passed, nothing. 2 hours, nothing. And by mid-afternoon, we were already much deeper than many homeowners expect to have been drilling their boreholes. Yet, there wasn't even a single sign of water. Of course, everybody remained hopeful because borehole depths, they vary depending on the geology of the area. Then we crossed 80 meters, still dry. 90 meters, dry. Now the excitement, it had started disappearing. So here comes the most expensive decision. So we reached 100 meters and it was already around 100 hours. And then, by then, the atmosphere is already starting to change. You're starting to notice the change in the sky. So by then the situation was just how it is. You're all waiting and looking up to something that you're not sure when it is going to come. So it was now a moment of silence. Everyone was doing calculations in their head. So every additional 10 meters meant more drilling cost, more fuel, more wear on the drilling equipment, and of course more money. This is where many homeowners stop, not because the contractor has recommended stopping, but because the budget, it has been exhausted. You would have maybe budgeted that usually by 80, 90 you would have gotten something, but 100, a lot of people, they are not really prepared to go beyond that. So imagine now you have to tell your family or any other person that you've spent thousands of dollars on drilling a bore and still there's no water. It's quite heartbreaking. So you know how it is. The contractor, obviously, they're asking, what do? We continue, we stop? What is the way forward? So one question remained: do we stop or we keep drilling? So if you've ever built a house, you know those moments that really tests your patience, because once the drilling rigs leave your property, bringing it back later, it's another big expense. So whatever decision you make has long-term consequences. So before I tell you what happened next, let me explain something that you should just know about boreholes. A successful borehole is not based on luck. Zimbabwe's underground geology, it can be complex. Water moves through fractures in rock. Some properties, they have deep fractures filled with underground water, whilst others, they don't. That's why you might find that your neighbor, they can find water at 45 meters, and you on your property, you might find it be beyond 120 meters. So this is why it's always important that you have a geophysical survey before you get your borehole drilling done. However, a survey doesn't guarantee water. This is something that we should also be clear about, but it significantly improves the chances of drilling in the most promising location. It's a small investment, but it can reduce the risk of making a very expensive mistake. All right, so let us go back to the drilling on the site. So obviously the owner, they decided they are going to continue beyond the 100 meters. So the drilling, it was still ongoing, is happening, and then we reached 110 meters. There was nothing. And we went on to 120 meters. This is the point where everyone was now silent, because every minute it felt longer than the last. And 120 meters, this is where majority of people just give up. If you have drilled to 120 and still there's no water, a lot of people, they'll just give up on this part. And then they decided to just have one more try. And 130 meters, it happened. Water. The drilling crew immediately knew they had intercepted a water-bearing fracture. The mood, it instantly changed. You know, people were now smiling, and the atmosphere, it had now changed. The tension, it had disappeared, and after almost 6 hours of uncertainty, we finally found water. So imagine if we had stopped at 100 meters, this project would have been remembered as a failed borehole. But instead, just 30 meters later, the whole story and narrative changed. So here are some 5 lessons that I learned and would just want to share with you. So it reminded me of things that are very, very important. Always budget for the unexpected. Whenever you're just doing your project, you're going to find a lot of things that are going to be happening that you hadn't put on your budget. So it's important that you always have a contingency fund. And then the second one, you shouldn't compare what your neighbors managed to get, or when exactly they found water, just because maybe you are directly opposite or next to each other. The odds, they are not the same. Of course, with the naked eye or the human mind, you just think obviously it's my neighbor, so obviously it's not going to be different, but that is not the case. And then the third one, always invest in a professional geophysical survey before drilling. And then the next one is to obviously hire experienced drilling contractors with a proven track record. And then finally, you do not celebrate until you've completed a proper yield test. Finding water, obvious, is one thing, but having enough water supply for your home throughout the project and the year, it's another thing. So this day, it reminded me that construction isn't always about concrete and bricks. It's about making decisions, sometimes with complete information or sometimes with incomplete information, but nevertheless, you have to trust the process. And sometimes success is only a little deeper than what you wanted in the beginning, and you have to know where you need to stop. Also, if we had stopped at 100 meters, we would have believed that no water was on this property. But that extra push, it changed the whole narrative. So this is what happened when we were getting the borehole of this project drilled. Thank you so much guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to this channel. Until next informative video, cheers.